You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
This is Chip Gilchrist, voice of the Kingston Frontenacs. You're listening to OHL Overtime, an in-depth interview show highlighting the players, coaches, and broadcasters from around the Ontario Hockey League who make the league so great, as well as in-person coverage of events such as the OHL Playoffs, OHL Championship Series, OHL Combine, and more, exclusively on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Here's your program host, Brendan Caputo.
And we're back with the first of two previews for this London Knights and Erie Otters second round series in the 2025 OHL playoffs. I'm pleased to be joined today by the media and communications coordinator and part of the Erie Otters broadcast team, Trevor Kubeja. Travels with the team as well, does play-by-play, does color commentary, and does a great job with Sean Bednard with the Erie Otters broadcast. Trevor, thanks so much for joining us. I know it's a busy time. You guys are about to head off to London, and by the time this comes out, the game will be played tonight. So first off, what are the vibes over there in Erie, and just how excited are things to get going in the second round against, obviously, one of the best teams in the Ontario Hockey League?
Well, Brandon, first of all, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate the time. And, for this Otters team, vibes right now are fantastic. Just being around the guys and being, downstairs, having our media availability earlier on this week. This is a team that is excited with where they are, obviously coming in feeling good after a pretty comfortable overall series win over the Saginaw Spirit, of course, the reigning Memorial Cup champion. So vibes around the organization right now, especially from a hockey ops standpoint, are fantastic. Of course, a lot of excitement around for this playoff series against the London Knights, but also excitement with the OHL draft coming up later on this week. That brings, obviously, another whole dimension to all of this. So it's a very exciting time to be a fan, a player associated with the Erie Otters because of how things are going on the ice. And I think these guys are ready for what is going to be the biggest challenge of their season against a very, very good London Knights team.
Back-to-back 5 seeds in the Western Conference for the Erie Otters, but would it be fair to say that this year maybe a little bit more optimism there? Obviously, Matt Schaefer was out for the whole second half of the year. Carey Terrance, the captain's been out as well. So, maybe they could have been higher in the standings, but it seems like this year as a 5 seed, and I'll be the first to say I picked Erie in the series, even though they were out without Matt Schaefer and Carey Terrance against a great Saginaw Spirit team. Does it feel like the vibes are a little bit different and the expectations have reached another level, especially with them being able to get past Saginaw, as opposed to maybe last year when they were a 5 seed?
Well, I think last season and coming into this season, the expectations were really high, thinking that last season, okay, you made the playoffs. You really fought a really tough Kitchener Ranger team, took them to 6 games, and who knows, a goal or two go in overtime, and that's a different story. Losing 3 games in overtime in the playoffs is tough to do in a series, and unfortunately for Erie, that's what happened last year. So coming into this season, expectations around this team were much, much higher, knowing what this team could be. Obviously, they've had some really tough luck throughout the course of the regular season, but now heading into the playoffs, I think, the big thing that we've seen with this team has been goals. 32 goals rather in a 5-game series over the Spirit, with your overagers combining for 19 of those after your trio of overagers in the regular season combined for 229 points. That's the most of any trio of overagers in not only the Ontario Hockey League but the entire Canadian Hockey League. Wow. So you've got guys clicking at the right time. So, and I agree with your point there, Brandon, that I do think the expectations now that they were able to down the Saginaw Spirit have risen a little bit, but I also have this feeling of house money a little bit because nobody, and I say this as a a representative of the team even, not many people are going to pick them to beat the London Knights. However, the one little bit of hope I have for this Otters team is, my goodness, they're clicking offensively right now. They are on fire offensively. Again, you mentioned the goals, so I do think the expectations have risen a little bit, but I also think the biggest thing about this season has been the progress that this group has been able to make. Last year, they make the playoffs. They get in. That's a step in the right direction. Now, this year, they win a playoff series, so maybe that sets yourself up for, looking ahead in the junior hockey cycle to maybe make a run here sometime soon. But then again, you're going into a playoff series playing your best hockey of the year. Who says they can't go in and beat the London Knights? It's going to obviously be a monumental task, but with how they're going right now, I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, it seems like they're up for the task, and playing in the Western Conference, they see the London Knights on a fairly regular basis. We'll get to more of London in a second here. Matt Schaefer, 22 points in the 17 games that he was able to play with the Otters this year. With him not being on the ice, how much of a presence has he been off the ice? I know he's been doing the media rounds, doing the tour, with his Otters, proudly wearing his Otters jersey or jackets or things like that. But what's Matt Schaefer's presence been like off the ice with this group while they've kind of gone through the second half of the year and into the playoffs?
It's been fantastic. And, you know him, obviously, from his brother's connection there in Niagara. And just what an unbelievable human being, what an unbelievable family. You can't say enough good things about Matthew Schaefer and what he brings as a person. Just his positive energy around the dressing room is fantastic for these guys, and the fact that he has been traveling with the team and he's been around the group in that way, that's been just fantastic for this group. And again, just what he brings as a leader and what he brings energy wise to this locker room is something that you cannot replicate. And I think that having him around has brought that vibe. And same with Otters captain Carey Terrance. Again, he hasn't been able to play on the ice, but he's brought such a presence off the ice as well. And just him being around the group just brings everybody's morale up.
Early, it might be hard to say, but for a guy that has so much hype around him, possibly the number one pick in the National Hockey League draft, when could we possibly see Matt Schaefer back in the lineup? Is it kind of a day-by-day thing? Is he getting closer, or is it something that the team's going to have to continue to learn how to play without him for the time being?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, and as of now, the only update that we can provide and that we have is that he has been skating with the team in a red non-contact jersey, so hopefully that is a step in the right direction, but as of now, the simple answer, unfortunately, is we don't know. And, the fear of the unknown is certainly there, but obviously it's a big miss in the lineup because you mentioned it right there, well over a point per game player, such a dynamic player can change a game just with his presence on the ice. And when you're going up against the London Knights team that brings with them Easton Cowan and Denver Barkey that have been clicking in the playoffs and Sam Dickinson on the back end, and you name it, Sam O'Reilly, Casper Halton, and all these superstars, having a guy like that in the lineup is huge, and unfortunately he's been very much missed by the Erie Otters. But to say that, there have been a lot of guys that have really stepped up in the postseason. Ty Henry and Nathan Sauter have been fantastic for Erie in that series against the Saginaw Spirit, shutting down a top line of Michael Misa, Christian Epperson, and Igor Chernyshov. They were relatively quiet in the series, and a lot of that was due to the play of that duo. So, Schaefer has been a big miss for this team. There have been guys who've stepped up. Henry, Sauter, Quinn McCall, Garrett Fraser, you name it. They've done a great job in stepping up and filling that void.
It's definitely been quite the committee there in Erie to get them to this point, but we look forward to hopefully seeing number 48 back on the ice before the season ends. About that first-round series with Saginaw, Trevor, like you look at it, 4-1 series that they were able to beat the defending Memorial Cup champions. Now, granted, a little bit maybe less talented than maybe they were last year because they had to recoup some draft picks, but they still had Michael Misa. You still had Zane Perek on that team, some dynamic top-end players. How were the Erie Otters able to kind of defend them, because they're going up against another high-powered offense in London, being able to really score a lot of goals? You mentioned how many goals Erie was scoring, so they scored 8, 9, 7, 6. Their lowest was their 3-2 overtime loss in Game 3, but other than that, this team's been putting up monster numbers through their 5 games already in the playoffs. Trevor, what has been the biggest difference or improvement that you've seen for why this team has really been able to turn it around and really put up those great offensive numbers that maybe some people didn't expect?
I think there's a few things that go into it. I think, first of all, the play of the Saginaw Spirit is very much allowing for a lot of goals. You've seen it so far this season, especially in the regular season with the Saginaw Spirit, that, they either, it seems like, blow a team out or get blown out themselves. And luckily for the Erie Otters, they were kind of beating them at their own game. There was a lot of space in the neutral zone that Erie was exploiting, and any time that they got an opportunity, it felt like they were burying it. And when you're shooting at that high of a percentage, you're going to win a lot of hockey games in the Ontario Hockey League. And, they had certain players take over games at times. Pano Femus had a hat trick in the series. You had Martin Misiak had 2 hat tricks in the series. The overagers were magnificent for the Otters. Sam Alfano scored a goal in every game of the series. Dylan Edwards was fantastic for the Erie Otters, scored in all but 1 game in the series. So you have just a solid core of guys, and you're getting the guys that you expect to score in these big games. When your superstars are playing their best hockey of the season, the playoffs, again, you're going to be in position to succeed. On the defensive side of things, Noah Erliden, kind of on the contrary to what his numbers might tell you, I thought he was really good in the series against the Saginaw Spirit. He made a couple of big saves in Game 5 that kept the team in it, especially in the second half of that hockey game. And he's going to have to be really good against the London Knights, because look, to beat the London Knights, you've got to play nearly a perfect hockey game, especially on the road. And we'll see what the Erie Otters can do here tonight at Canada Life Place, if they can put together that type of effort and get the job done. But it's not going to be easy. You're going to need your superstars to continue to step up, and that's exactly what they did against the Saginaw Spirit. And you're hoping that you can get that type of effort from these guys again. And again, depth scoring, another key. Alexi Davio scored in that series. Callum Hughes, I thought, was fantastic in the series. Alex Messier scored a big insurance goal in Game 5 in the clincher. So getting guys like that on the score sheet's another key. And again, you never know who could step up in the playoffs. Unsung heroes are a big part of playoff hockey. And for the Erie Otters, they've got a number of guys that certainly can fill that role.
Before we get to the London portion of it, and you mentioned unsung heroes and everybody buying into a system, Chris Millette taking over as the head coach for the Erie Otters, obviously had a pedigree in the Western Hockey League with the Kelowna Rockets. But what has Chris Millette's presence been like in that locker room? What have you seen since he took over, and why do you think that the group has really taken to what he's been preaching with his coaching style?
I really like the word you used there, Brandon, presence, because that's what he really commands, right? He is, I can't say enough great things about Chris Millette and what he has brought to this organization from a culture standpoint. He's a relationships-based coach that in his very first meeting with the team, he mentioned, hey, if you guys walk by my office today or any day and don't say hello to me, I'm not going to be very happy with you. Say hello. Let's talk. And I think that's a big thing with the Otters organization, with that door. It's always open for these young men to go have a conversation with Coach Millette. And he brings a booming presence on the bench. You'll see it in the series. He's a very active coach back behind the bench for the Erie Otters. And anytime that you have a coach stand up for his players in the way that he did just over a month ago, that really helps as well, building the relationships and building a buy-in from this group. And, I think for the first time this season, we really saw what a Chris Millette-led Erie Otters team can be in that series against the Saginaw Spirit, with just the way that they played, the way they defended, the way they quieted down some of the top players in the OHL, and Misa Chernyshov. Zane Parekh, I thought, was pretty loud in the series. He was pretty good for the Spirit. But overall, it was just a really solid team effort. And I think that's the one thing that, again, gives you hope as an Erie Otters fan going into this series against the London Knights, is just how it was such a complete team buy-in to take down Saginaw in 5 games. And you're going to need very much the same thing as you head into a series against a very good London Knights team. But, with how good this team is playing right now, I think they're capable of anything. Yeah, you mentioned how London Knights, 13 NHL prospects on their team, so Erie obviously going to be coming in as the underdog. But again, you mentioned that committee and them really buying into what Chris Millette's saying, being able to go out there and everybody plays a role, and obviously got getting them to the second round at this point. Looking at their stats against the London Knights this year, Trevor, we've got a few more minutes with you. They
beat London back on October 4th, 5-3. They lost 3-1 on October 20th. They also lost 6-1 on December 18th. They lost 4-2 on January 31st, 5-1 on February 22nd, and they won their final head-to-head meeting on the last game of the regular season on March 23rd, 6-4. What have you seen from the head-to-head against the Knights this year for Erie? Obviously, it's kind of a tale of two seasons from the beginning of the year, and then after the trade deadline, it's a little bit of, the seasons can kind of change there. But how did you think that the Otters played the Knights this year, and was there anything that you saw there that can maybe correlate to giving them some success in this possible 7-game series?
Well, it was a unique season series because in the 2 wins for the Erie Otters, the Knights did not have their full complement of superstars. The one on October 4th, you did see a little bit more of a star-studded lineup from the Knights than you did in that final game of the season. Will Nickel had a hat trick in the finale of the season. Oliver Phillips, Caden Edwards each scored their first OHL goals in that season finale. But, I think the key, again, to beating London is limiting mistakes. Erie took a lot of penalties against the Saginaw Spirit in the first round. They've got to limit that because London's power play is lethal. I think that if you get into a defensive struggle, London can play you. If you get into a track meet, London can play you. They can adapt their game to how you want to play. But again, I thought Erie was super competitive in every game, and it's a different energy when this game and this series is played at the Erie Insurance Arena versus at Canada Life Place. There's a different energy about Erie London in Erie. The Erie fans show up big time. It's loud. I don't know if you've ever been to an Erie London game here at the EIA, Brandon, but it is an unbelievable experience, especially on a Saturday night when this place is rocking. The fans really get up for it, and the Erie Otters players get up for it. They've made life difficult for the London Knights in pretty much every game, barring I think the one on December 18th was the one that kind of got away from them a little bit on that Wednesday. It was the final game before the holiday break. It was just kind of a throw-in on a Wednesday night, it almost felt like. So that one you almost can kind of toss out the window. So all the games have been tight, and I think that Erie is going to come out here. They're going to try to play a tight defensive structure, but also they're not going to be afraid to hit you on the counterattack with the speed that they have in the punch through the neutral zone. And, they're going to, again, need their superstars to step up in this series. They have at times against the London Knights over the regular season. So they're looking to do it again. It was a tight season series, 4-2. Erie, I think, would love a little reversal of that for this playoff series. 4 wins, 2 losses for London would be fantastic. But, it's going to be a tough series. I don't think either team gets it done in 4. I think Erie does have the ability to steal one, maybe on the road. If they go into London and steal one on the road, look out, because this is going to be a wild series. But I think we're going to have a fun series on our hand. Anytime that these two teams meet again, there's so much playoff history between them. 2017 really jumps out to me, and Warren Fogel's overtime winner against the London Knights in Game 7 of what was a wild series. You had Joseph Murdaka way out of his net, and somehow London didn't score, and then you go back the other way and score an overtime winner. Just so many great playoff memories between these two teams, and so many players that have gone on to the NHL with McDavid and Marner and Matthew Tkachuk and Christian Dvorak on the London side, and Robert Thomas, another one for the Knights. And you look on the Otters side, Strome and DeBrincat and Warren Foegele and Anthony Cirelli, and just all these fantastic superstars that have gone on to have great NHL careers for themselves. And, we're looking at the future again in the National Hockey League with guys like Malcolm Spence and on the London side, Easton Cowan, and the list goes on and on. So much talent, so much excitement going into this playoff series.
Yeah, you set it up nicely there, Trevor, with giving the history of this rivalry and so many great playoff memories between these two Western Conference rivals. Before I let you go, I have to ask you about Pano Femis. What has he brought to this team as more of a leader this year? 86 points in 68 games. Committed to Notre Dame next season. Going to be a member of the Fighting Irish, but he's going up against his brother as well in London, which is going to be surely weird for him. But what can you tell us about the development of Pano Femis, especially over the last year and a half?
Again, I cannot say enough great things about what Pano Femis brings to this Otters team, whether it be the point production. He's one of the best passers I've seen in a long time in an Erie Otters uniform. His ability to thread the needle, to connect usually with Sam Alfano for a big goal. Again, a guy who scored 40-plus goals this year in Alfano, and a lot of those were assisted by Pano Femis. He just brings such a leadership quality. He's a very unique individual when it comes to his preparation and everything that goes into how he sets up for a game. But when it comes to a top line center and really just a two-way center as well, he's so good in all three zones. The OHL single season face-off record holder now after winning nearly 1,000 face-offs. 985 is what he finished with this season. Just a fantastic year for a player that is going to be very much missed in an Otters uniform. He can score a big goal when you need it. He can kill a penalty. He can make a pass. He can block a shot. He does it all for the Erie Otters. And again, that's going to be a player that Erie's going to really miss his production heading into next year and beyond.
Absolutely, and he's a guy that was drafted second overall in the 2020 draft by the Niagara Ice Dogs. Very highly touted coming out of minor hockey, and then missed his first season due to COVID. So I'm really happy to see Pano Femis really finishing off his OHL and junior hockey career. Very strong, one of my favorite players to cover and watch over the last 4.5 years. But Trevor, I'm not going to ask you to pick your winner for this series. It'd be unfair of me to ask you to be nonpartisan in this series. So I'm going to ask you, what is your pick for the other Western Conference series? Kitchener Rangers London against the Windsor Spitfires, the number 2 versus number 3. That one looks like it could probably go the distance. Who do you have?
Yes, I've got that one going 7 games for sure, and it could really go either way, but I really like the way that the Kitchener Rangers defend. They are so tough to play against. We haven't seen them since late January here in Erie. Play them 6 times, and we got those 6 games out of the way right off the jump there. So the Rangers so good defensively, and I think they have the power to shut down an Ilya Protas and a Liam Greentree. It's a really tough one to call, but I'd say Rangers in 7. They're just going to edge it.
Yeah, that's going to be a very good series, and as well, this London-Erie series could be a sneaky good series as well. I'm looking forward to covering it there in London at Canada Life Place and down there at the Erie Insurance Arena. Trevor Kubeja, the Media and Communications Coordinator, part of the Erie Otters broadcast team. Trevor, thanks so much for coming on and giving us some quick analysis before you guys head off to London. Look forward to seeing you during the series, and best of luck here for the Otters the rest of the way.
Brandon, thank you so much for the time. Anytime, I'm happy to join you. So really enjoy talking Otters hockey and looking forward to what should be a great playoff series. And running into you in London is going to be interesting. I've only seen you here in the EIA and, of course, in St. Catharines. So going to be a lot of fun and looking forward to what should be a fantastic series.
Oh, I'll apologize in advance so you have to see me anywhere. But regardless of that, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back. We're going to hear the London Knights side of things with the radio color commentator Jim Van Horne. So stay right here. We're right back on OHL Overtime right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. The great guys over at Hockey Stick Man are sponsoring this video. If you play hockey but are sick of paying upwards of $400 for top-end sticks, check these guys out. There is seriously no better place to shop. The guys are fun, easy, and offer a stress-free experience from start to finish. They get pro stock sticks from major junior teams right up to the NHL teams and sell them for half the price that the same stick would sell for at a retail store. To further support their mission of saving hockey families money, they offer closeout options, which entail taking last year's retail models and blowing them out for less than wholesale prices. It's literally the best prices on the internet for their sticks. And the best sticks of all may be their Pro Blackout series, which provide a top-end stick with no graphics and literally less than half the price of a branded top-end retail model. It's always been their best-selling stick despite super cool pro stock options. It's a no-brainer to shop with these guys, and trust me, they are beauties. Head over to hockeystickman.ca/thearmchairgm and get $15 off your first order. That's hockeystickman.ca/thearmchairgm to get an additional $15 off your first order when you sign up on their website. Check out our friends at Hockey Stick Man. Fourth Wall is the official merchandise supplier of the Armchair GM Sports Network. Our user-friendly site is print to order with no minimum items or inventory needed, shipped right to your doorstep safely and efficiently from their North American warehouse. All of our logos are available to supporters, listeners, and viewers can have the best variety available to them for their swag preferences. All items are priced as low as possible, allowing everybody who wants to support our business with the opportunity to do so, receiving quality and comfortable products in return. Shop today at fourthwall.com with the direct link to our Armchair merch store in the description of all episodes and in the bio of all of our social media accounts. Become an Armchair GM today with Fourth Wall.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
Welcome back to part 2 of today's OHL Overtime episode right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network as we continue to preview and take a deep dive in the London Knights versus Erie Otters second round playoff series in the 2025 OHL playoffs. Great analysis in segment 1 with Trevor Kubeja of the Erie Otters broadcast team, and in part 2 we're going to get the London Knights part of it. I'm pleased to welcome to the show now the color commentator for the London Knights radio on 980 CFPL over the last 13 years with Mike Stubbs, and has been covering the London Knights since 1979. That'd be the great Jim Van Horne. Jim, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. Again, it's something the London Knights are used to, getting to the second round, but it's always an exciting time in playoffs, and look forward to seeing what this series between these two bitter Western Conference rivals, Erie Otters, London Knights, is in store for us starting tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Brandon. Always a pleasure to be with you, and you're right. As the Knights have made the playoffs 25 straight years, but you never take for granted a playoff series victory. So when you get to a second round, you appreciate it, because there have been lots of years around here, back in the early days, where getting to the playoffs was a real accomplishment. And there were decades almost where you'd get like 1 or 2 years, you'd make a playoff run, and that would be it. So, you get to the second round, you're doing something.
So if we go back a few years, Jim, real quick, you look at 2 years ago, 22-23, Knights finished second place in the Western Conference. They kind of exceeded expectations. Really young roster there. They maybe thought they were in the OHL finals a year early with that great young group, and then going into last year, they were really the favorites, won 50 games, finished first place in the Western Conference, and then won the OHL Championship, eventually losing to another rival in the Saginaw Spirit in the Memorial Cup final. Had won everything leading up to that, just lost to them in the final game as the host city. And then this year, coming in with even higher expectations, 13 NHL draft picks on the team. You finished with 54 wins on the season, so you increased the point total and win total from even last year's 50-win season. And by all intents and purposes, the number one team in the CHL right now, and having to live up to those expectations. What have you seen from this kind of core over the last 2 or 3 years, Jim, that's made them so special and that gives them another chance, another kick at the can here for a third straight season?
Wow, great question. I think a couple things. I would say meeting the moment. I would classify the first thing as that kind of undaunted by expectation, and being you're always kind of the hunted when you wear a Knight sweater. Everybody wants to knock you off, no matter if it's September 27th or April 27th, it doesn't matter. And they are comfortable with that. They handle it pretty well. They have done that for 3 years, this core of Barkey, Bonk, Cowan, and then some others added to it, of course, have kind of grown together. And the way they handle expectation. Also, I think, commitment to the cause. They are the Knights play a certain way. You really over 25 years have refined a style of play with the Knights, with Dale coaching all those years, and it's defense first. You play a certain way. You don't do this. You don't do that, and they buy in. There's no ambiguity with this franchise about who's in charge. There's no kind of doubt about the way that the Knights play. And I think sometimes you see other franchise. I mean, the older guys teach the younger guys, and there's a certain Knights way that is always followed, and everybody who comes in buys in. So yeah, it's been interesting to see over the years. So that would define the Knights currently. But also, just the again, that whole comfort with being having the expectations. I think I would sort of classify it as that, and knowing that you have your own standard. You can't worry about what the other team does to you. You got to kind of play the Knights' way, and then we'll let the results fall where they are. A lot of people feel that the Knights have everything and usually go their way. Not true. I mean, they've had some of the most crushing, devastating losses, but when you're always there, it's going to happen, right? Hockey is hockey, and it's a competitive league. There are great teams in the league all the time, but the Knights have suffered through, like, they were up 3-0 a few years ago against Guelph and Nick Suzuki, and they lost 4 in a row. I mean, not very many teams experience that. So they've had the tremendous highs and they've had the tremendous lows. They lost to a Kitchener team that was an excellent hockey team as a 7 seed, a 2-7 one year, and Kitchener won in a game 7. Mike Petezian scores in overtime. So, I mean, they've had to deal with crushing defeats and, of course, the highs. And in that respect, I think that league championship last year, I know that there's a lot of players upset that they lost in the Memorial Cup final, but you can never dismiss an OHL championship. I know in Hamilton, they should feel the same way. And in Windsor, they should feel the same way about, the league championships to me are there. And a Memorial Cup, it's not like it's just a bonus, but it has a different dynamic. And you never dismiss a league championship. If you're an OHL champion and you're hanging a banner and you get the Robbie, as the players call it, I mean, that's an accomplishment all in itself. And I mean, last year, the Knights beat Saginaw 3 straight games in their building in the playoffs and game 1 of the Memorial Cup. How many times can you beat a good team like Saginaw in their building in a row? The Knights did it 3 in a row. It just it didn't happen a 4th time. And Saginaw is a great team, and you can't expect to keep beating them in their building four times in a row. And then they came up with a victory with 20 seconds to go. So credit to them, but no. Nobody is thinking around here that the Knights had anything but a spectacular season in winning the OHL championship.
68-game season and then 4 rounds of possible 7-game series. I think, raising another J. Ross Robertson Cup banner in London is something that, they've been accustomed to, but you can never take away how difficult that is year in and year out to get back there. Especially, as you mentioned, when you're the hunted every single year. That seems like the London Knights are. Getting a little bit forward here, Jim, quickly talk to us about Dale Hunter, because you obviously have a new coach on the other side, and Chris Millette comes over with some great pedigree from the Western Hockey League, going up against a guy like Dale Hunter, and a guy that stays out of the limelight, but just won his 1,000th game in the CHL. Just a guy that continues to build off good teams every single year. For somebody that travels with the team and sees Dale a little bit behind the scenes, what is he like with the players, and why does he have such a strong connection with them in getting them to buy into the way that they need to play to be able to win hockey games?
Wow, great question. I think people might be surprised at how modern he is. While he's got some of the old school in him, he's also very modern, and I think the players really appreciate that. That he's watching NHL games from the night before, and if he sees a guy, maybe in need of instruction, to do things another way, a certain way, he'll show him a clip from last night's NHL game and say, "Look, here's what we think you should be doing in that instance." Whatever. I'll give you an example. Will Nickel kept getting breakaways and couldn't finish. And he tried to go 5-hole. He tried to do this. So Dale pulled him aside, showed him a clip of, I forget who it was in the NHL, who made a move through the 5-hole a certain way. And he took the puck just a little bit further. And Nickel started doing that. First time he tried it, scores. And then he skates right over to the bench and points at Dale and says, "You were right. You were right." So it's just that's an example, one example. I mean, it's a minor example of a guy who, he's been around for a long time, but he hasn't lost touch with the way that, number one, hockey is played today. He's a surprising analytics guy. I mean, he knows when to dismiss analytics and when to use them. And he stays in touch with the game. And, you have to play a certain way. Absolutely. And I think that's part of the success. But I think he's surprisingly modern, both in terms of the hockey and the individuals. He treats everybody with respect, like a professional would be treated. People think that the way he played, he might be kind of an emotional yeller, screamer. No way. He very rarely even talks to his team after a game. He doesn't want to say something that he will regret. He doesn't want to say anything in the emotion of the moment. He wants to study the video, make sure he's right. Then it's a cool off, and then he'll address it the next day. But I think the players appreciate it, being treated like professionals. So I mean, those are just a couple of insights into Dale's success, and he's got this eye for talent that's pretty much unmatched as far as watching a kid and at 16, 17, knowing how he might develop. And yeah, I mean, the latest example, Noah Reed, just kind of bring him along slowly, 10th round pick out of St. Catharines.
Yep.
Kind of unheralded a little bit, but played junior B, GOJHL, I should say. And then now, I mean, he's getting a hat trick in a clinching playoff game. I mean, he just has an eye that way for talent, where to use somebody and how.
Yeah, he definitely keeps a low profile, but continues to really, crank out players year in and year out, and really has an eye for development as well. You mentioned some players that start out in Junior B or the OJHL and work their way up to being London Knights, not maybe in their first year, but throughout the rest of their hockey career, and they continue to do such a great job of that. And it's great to hear some stories, because Dale Hunter's sort of like a mystery man, doesn't like to say a whole lot, so it's great to hear some stuff behind the scenes about what a guy that has 1,000 wins under his belt is like with some of his players. So moving on here, Jim Van Horne from the London Knights radio broadcast is with us. 6-1 win in Game 1, 6-3 win in Game 2, 7-4 win in Game 3, and an 8-4 win in Game 4, sweeping the Owen Sound attack in Round 1 in the number 1 versus number 8 matchup. Obviously, Owen Sound's in a rebuilding state right now with Scott Ray and the young roster they have there. But was there anything that you could really take from that first round series, other than them putting up at least 6 goals in every one of the games, Jim, as a little bit of a preview and making sure that they're ready to go for what should be a competitive series in Round 2 against an Erie Otters team?
No, they were given a tough time by the attack. I know it's 4 in a row, and I know there was a lot of goals for the Knights, but I think the attack have a good. They're building a good thing there. I mean, they're in a rebuild, obviously, and they're playing 16-year-olds on the power play. I mean, it's difficult to go up against the experience of a team like the Knights, and the Knights sort of met the moment every time. Every time Owen Sound challenged or had a good period, the Knights would do something at a key moment to kind of take the wind out of their sails, and they responded to big moments in that series. I think, if you're picking at small potatoes, and the Knights are good at that because that's the standard they hold themselves to, but they'd like to tighten up a little bit defensively, and they gave up 3 goals a game on average, and I don't think that's below their regular season goals against. So I think they'd like to tighten up a little bit. But hey, in the playoffs, you get a 4-game sweep, you're doing something right, and you move on, because it's no longer about the stats. But I think as far as the way they played, they'd like to tighten up a little bit defensively and keep the offense pretty much the same against the Erie Otters. But obviously, that's a tough opponent. I mean, Erie and London have this thing where it doesn't seem to matter where either one of them are in the standings. It's a battle, and Erie is going to give London their best, and it's never easy for the Knights when they play the Otters, whether it be at home or at Erie Insurance Arena. It's a wild barn, but Erie won very early in the year in London, and so it doesn't seem to matter where the two teams play. It's always a great rivalry.
Yeah, it sounds like it, and I'm looking forward to being able to see that live. As far as being able to stop this Erie Otters team, Jim, because they've been putting up monstrous numbers through the first series against the Saginaw Spirit team, scoring 8 goals, I believe, in 3 of the games. So they've really been able to score really much at will in that series. You look at it from the Knights side of things, and you mentioned tightening up the defense and things like that. We know how many top-end skaters they have up front, NHL drafted players, first-round, second-round talents. But what can you tell us about the goaltending? Alexei Medvedev and Austin Elliott have obviously been very good for the Knights this year. Medvedev has moved his way up to almost basically being the number 1 CHL goaltender available in the upcoming 2025 NHL entry draft. And Austin Elliott only lost 1 game all season long coming over from the Western Hockey League. So what have you seen from those two gentlemen in the net this year, and what gives you confidence that going up against a high-powered Erie Otters team that they'll be able to be up for the challenge?
Well, let's start with Elliott. The one thing that's so impressive about him is his calm demeanor. And, this is the CHL. You're going to give up, it's pretty wide open. You're going to give up some goals, and it's about timing. And he's got this ability to make big saves at big times. I'm so impressed with his ability to rise to the occasion, shake off a goal if it does go in. And it's about timing in the playoffs, and he seems to have that. He played all 4 games against Owen Sound, and he had this sense of, you give up a goal. I don't know how to describe it, but Grant Fuhr kind of used to be like this, where, you'd maybe look at the end of the year and his numbers were this, but he never gave up that big goal at the big time. And Elliott has kind of that calmness about him, that he's never bothered. When a goal does go in, he's going to make that next save. And Medvedev is learning that, and he's just got this elite athleticism that is just jumps off the charts at you. He's just got this flexibility. His legs are quick. His movement side to side is just, again, elite, and he's got these springy legs that seem to kick out. And but it's a lot to ask of any 17-year-old in this league to carry you in the playoffs. It really is. And you saw it with Brampton. I think Ivan Kovic's a great young goaltender. At the end of the series, Gillespie's in, right? There's nothing like experience in the playoffs in goaltending. So far, it's been Austin Elliott. And he just has that ability to make the big save at the big moment.
And then, have you seen a little bit from Medvedev as far as the expectations? Because obviously he's kind of risen up the draft boards, passing a guy like Jack Ivan Kovic for, the best available goaltenders in the Ontario Hockey League, in the upcoming NHL draft. Have you seen the progression of him from the beginning of the year till now, as far as maybe his confidence, or is he putting more pressure on himself? What are you seeing from Alexei Medvedev in that sense?
Well, exactly what you said. He's risen. I think he's come way above the expectations that the Knights had for him. 17 years old. He played basically half the games. He played some games in tough buildings on the road, played great in games like in Windsor, where the Spitfires hardly ever lose. He played this one game, was just unbelievable. He almost stole 2 points. Knights came in with some injuries, and he withstood the Windsor barrage, and they finally pulled it out in 3-2 in the late stages of the third. But he was great. He was great in Saginaw. He's been great in Kitchener. And they're thrilled with the development of Alexei Medvedev. But, everybody, it's one of the things the Knights never fall into a trap of asking somebody to do something and beyond their expectations. He's already done that. But I think that there's an example of you've got an experienced, calm, reliable goaltender in Elliott, and in the playoffs, they've ridden him. And I expect we'll see Elliott start against the Erie Otters, and we'll see how it goes. But I don't think there'll be any hesitation bringing in Medvedev if Elliott does falter, and they'll feel good about it. But, one of the things they very rarely do in London is ask too much of young people. And you see guys, even you look at Cowan, Bonk, Logan Mayu before him, Sam O'Reilly. They've all spent complete seasons in GOJHL. You never ask too much of young players. And so they're going to tread carefully because long term, they know Medvedev over the next 2 years is going to be a dominant goalie. But right now, the experience, you've got this experienced, steady hand there. You ride with him.
Yeah, only losing one game all season long. You can't really go against that. Pretty incredible numbers for Austin Elliott. So lastly for you, Jim, when you look at it, obviously the Knights are the favorites to win the Ontario Hockey League Championship again this year, and they're always great at leveling those expectations and being able to go out there and perform it. But most goals for in the league, least amount of goals against in the league this year in all the OHL, like 55 wins. Again, they're the favorites in the series, but when you look at it, in your opinion, what do the Knights need to do to be able to pull out this series against the Erie Otters, who have obviously been putting up a lot of goals, but when you have guys like Easton Cowan, Sam Dickinson, Denver Barkey, the list goes on and on, Oliver Bonk, Casper Halton, and, what, in your opinion, the Knights come out with the victory in the series because of?
I think they need to make Erie worry about London instead of London worrying about Erie. And by that, I mean, they've got to make Erie play some defense. Obviously the Otters can do it. We'll see how the health goes with the Otters, see if Terrance comes back. But I think London can win if they just play to their own expectations. I think they've got a good chance. All the things you said are true. They're kind of an indicator of how London has played all year. The great thing about the Knights that I've learned over the years is all of that's just chatter. That's just you and I talking, and talk doesn't do it. You can be the best team on paper. You got to do it on the ice. And the Knights have this high standard of themselves, and no one's harder on themselves than the London Knights. So I think the Knights can win if they play to their own standard and their own expectations, and they make the Otters play some defense. You can't trade chances with the Otters. They got a lot of firepower, and you need to kind of make them worry about your offense as well. And I think they'll take the result. It's a great matchup as far as it's an interesting story of the coaches, right? Because you got Dale, who's been around for so long, and Chris comes in very short period of time. But I can never, you never think you're going to have an easy series with a coach behind the bench who will take off his jacket and go fight the other coach. You always, that Peterborough incident seemed to galvanize the Otters a little bit. They're wearing the shirts, free Chris, and when the players have that belief that the coach trusts us and believes in us and he's willing to fight the other coach for us, it's been a rough year in Erie. They've had things, to deal with that, some teams never deal with, and it's been a up and down ride. But once he came in, settled things down, and kind of showed that he's there for them, you've got a bear. You've got a tough opponent when a group of young men are committed like they seem to be. So this is not going to be an easy series by any means. And good for the Otters for taking out a high-flying Saginaw team.
Absolutely. Amazing stuff there from Jim Van Horne, color commentator for the London Knights radio on 980 CFPL. Jim, thanks so much for taking the time. It'll be great to catch up with you and Mike Stubbs at the rink there at Canada Life Place, as well as in Erie. Looking forward to seeing this rivalry in person. I've heard a lot of great things about how rowdy it can get on both sides and both buildings. So look forward to catching up with you. Look forward to watching Game 1 tonight in Canada Life Place, but I'll see you there at Game 2 on Saturday. But really appreciate you coming on and giving us the great analysis of the Knights.
Thanks a lot, Brandon. Always great chatting with you.
That's going to wrap it up for another episode of OHL Overtime right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Thank you to Trevor Kubeja and Jim Van Horne for giving us a great preview of this London Knights versus Erie Otters series. Enjoy the series, and we'll talk to you again very soon. You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.